Welcome back, everybody, to Trade Talk, the collected comic book review podcast. This is episode 4, and I'm your host, Niko. Thanks once again to everybody who has tuned in so far on to this show on the Late Night Chat Network. I've certainly been enjoying doing it so far. Reading things week to week is something I normally do anyway, so to come on here and give some thoughts on the books right after I've read them has been pretty fun for me to do and get my thoughts out there, and hopefully, give some people some suggestions of things they should be checking out that otherwise they may not have. So without further ado, we'll get right into it here. I got 3 books for you guys today that I recently read. So the first one up is called Zegas. It's like Vegas, but with a Z, and it's by Michel Fife. I believe that's how you pronounce his name, and if I'm pronouncing it wrong, my apologies. This is the artist mostly known for his work on a book called Copra. Copra is like his version of like the Suicide Squad, essentially. His take on that book and a lot of those characters that came through. Like, he's got like characters that are like pastiches, like versions of like Captain Boomerang in it. But then he also got other people, like there's like a Doctor Strange type character on the team. So it's like, he's got a bunch of like his versions of like, there's a Deadshot in there, though. There's mostly Suicide Squad type characters, and there's like an Amanda Waller type character. But it's like an independent comic that he put out that's actually just about to launch its own ongoing series, I believe, in October through Image Comics. They've recently republished all of his 5 volumes in the series, and then they're going to make it an ongoing in October. So if you've never checked that out, definitely check out that series. Like, his art is just on something like from another world. His art style is very different than like anything I've ever really seen, and very unique. So definitely worth checking out. Copra is like one of my favorite series that I kind of came upon over the last year or two, and he's been self-publishing it prior to this, and this also, I guess, is a book that he was self-publishing originally that Fantagraphics collected in one oversized paperback. I guess it consists of 3 issues that he had put out of this series, Zegas. And as much as I like his work in Copra, and so much that I check out anything else he does at this point. Like, he even did a recent G.I. Joe book for IDW that hasn't come out in collected paperback form yet, but when it does, I most likely will end up talking about it here. He even did a Blood Strike book, like the old Image characters for Image last year, and that's been collected and is out in paperback, and that was pretty interesting as well. This I didn't love so much. Like, for the art, I'll just get that out the way right away. Absolutely. Like I said, his art is very unique. Similar to, I talked about Tom Scioli's art the week before. I think that with Tom Scioli's new kind of art style that he's been doing over the last few projects, it's similar in the sense like the colors look like he's using like a lot of different mixed media type stuff, like he's like using pencil crayon and just like rough pencil work and like shading and different types of things that you would see in most traditional art. And I don't know too much about maybe some of the tools that he's using, but he definitely is doing something different that stands out on the page than most other traditional comic book artists, like, and especially superhero artists, to the point where like his stuff would look out of place anywhere else other than like the indie books that he does. But it's so different and so enjoyable to look at, and I can't say enough good things about his art. I really like it. And the story in this, though, is about a brother and a sister that live together, and I think they like live in like Manhattan, somewhere in New York, and basically it's just about their day-to-day lives, like living there. And one of them's named Emily and the other one's name is Boston, and as the back of this book describes, it's about their it maps out their most primal concerns: survival, sex, and mortality in their color-coded dreamlike landscape. So yeah, it's about like, there's a story about like somebody that takes drugs in this that knows the Boston character, and about how like Boston's not like he's socially awkward, and he tries to get like his sister tries to like hook him up with one of her friends in one of the stories, and how like he's not kind of with it, and he ends up going home with her, but then it doesn't end up working out. Then he kind of gets mad at his sister for trying to hook him up with this person because like he's kind of a shut-in, and meanwhile he's fucking around with this girl that's married but that he's in love with, and he thinks it's gonna go somewhere, but it isn't, and he's kind of waiting around on her, and it's one of those situations. And then like there's story about her looking for a new job, his sister in this, so it's about just like smaller stories about their life in the big city, them trying to basically just come to terms with like normal everyday kind of occurrences, but at the same time it's bizarre because there's sometimes like depictions of different people in this story that the artist renders that or makes them look like weird creatures. Now, I don't know if he's just trying to comment on these people, like how he sees them in everyday life, or if they just live in a world where it's like somewhere between reality and fantasy, and it especially makes it look that way and feel that way through the art itself. So, like, as a story, I felt like, like I said, it's a bunch of shorter stories. Some I liked better than others of these two characters, but I didn't really feel that the mix of the art and these type of stories worked well. And I guess this is probably definitely more of a personal project for this artist, and maybe that's why, like, this is kind of something that he did outside of the kind of superhero, kind of like Suicide Squad version that he did with Cobra. But for me, it just wasn't as an enjoyable read as some of that other stuff that he's put out. So yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of his art, like, I'm not gonna get rid of this book. I'm gonna keep this on my shelf. Like, it's something I'm gonna keep just to kind of take a look at, just if I want to admire his artwork. So if you take a look at his stuff, or if you're already familiar with it and you're a fan of his art, check this out. It's definitely worth picking up for that reason alone. But I mean, if you're looking for a great story, this was just okay for me in that sense. And so yeah, this is definitely for completionists or big fans of his work. Otherwise, I think you can pass on this. And I would definitely, if you are new to his work, just check out Cobra. Check out Cobra. If you love that so much, you're like, you want to see what else this guy's up to, then, eventually get around to reading this. Or maybe if you can find it for a good deal or not. It's $20 retail, and like I said, it's from Fantagraphics. Alright, and next up we got Invaders. This is Volume 1. This is written by Chip Zdarsky with art by Carlos Magno and Butch Geis. And this was pretty good. I enjoyed this. I'm not a huge Invaders guy. I can't say that I've read many of their comics. I know that they've been around a long time. I mean, especially Captain America, and then the original Human Torch, Toro, who's in this, Namor, Bucky. All these guys are Golden Age comic characters for Marvel. And then, the Invaders shortly came after that, but the stories themselves take place in, like during World War II era. So yeah, I mean, they are an important team for Marvel, comprised of some of their older characters that make sense of this timeline. And so yeah, as a concept, everything about it works, and I just have never really read many of their comics. So Chip Zdarsky, who's been writing a lot of good things for Marvel lately, when he was announced as the writer on this, so I was like, okay, yeah, I'll give it a shot. I had heard some good things about it. Like I said, the first volume just came out, and yeah, I really ended up enjoying this. I mean, this is an ongoing story that mostly centers around Namor. So, like, Namor out of all these people is probably my favorite, just because Namor comes off like such an asshole, and I do like characters that are flawed, and he's always got the interesting aspect to him of like, how he is the king of Atlantis, as well as, he's fought in the war. He's walked on land with humans. He may not always see eye to eye with them, but he's also a mutant. And they actually go into that quite deep into that, his past, and how we don't really, we've heard different stories and we know different things about Namor, but he is a quite complicated character in the sense that he does have the mutant thing going for him. He did fight in the war for for these landwalkers, these earthlings, and but he is from the sea, so like there's all these different aspects like of him. Like he doesn't walk among on land with all the other rest of the humans, but he lives in the water, but he's a mutant, so he's just got so many different layers to him and allegiances to different kind of people in different parts of his life. So like in this, it basically, not to get too into the overall plot, I will just say that it's mainly focused on him. It does a lot of flashback stuff with the Butch Geist artwork, which looks great. The art in this, I like the Butch Geist flashback stuff, but to be honest, the Carlos Magno art, which takes place in the present day and I guess is comprised of the majority of the art in the book, I wasn't huge on. I thought it was okay. I didn't hate looking at it, but I just thought the flashback stuff worked so much better. But it wouldn't have worked for, like, I get why they made Butch Geist do the flashback sequences. But he's done work on the Winter Soldier stuff and Captain America and stuff like that, and that's why he fits right in kind of this world, and it's perfect for that. And I wouldn't have made him the main artist on the book because I don't think it would have worked for that either if we're talking about present day time. Just I don't know if I would use the Carlos Magno art on that. Not my cup of tea, but it certainly didn't ruin the book for me. But yeah, it kind of goes into Namor's past big time in this, because Toro is going around and he's trying to write about their times in the war. He's trying to write like his own like biography, and it kind of starts out with him seeking down some of the old invader, kind of some of his people that he fought with in the war, like Cap and Bucky and all them, and trying to collect their stories, and in doing so, you kind of get some flashbacks about Namor, and then you find out like Namor recently had these issues with the Avengers that's going on in the current Jason Aaron Avengers run, where he was basically going to go to war with them, with Atlantis, and backing them up, and Captain America is currently part of that Avengers team in Jason Aaron. So some of the plot threads from that actually make their way into this story as well. So Cap and him are already at odds with each other. And then once some other shit about their past, bubble up to the surface, no pun intended, as a result of kind of everything going on, he continues his conflict with not only Captain America, but with the rest of his comrades from the war, the Invaders team, right? And then you go into the whole mutant thing, and you go into the fact that he lost somebody in the war, and he was connected to these humans for the rest of his life. Like he sought out solace and some humans that he made friends with through the war. I guess his teammate that he lost, he ended up continuing to be friends with his family throughout his years, but I guess was talking to them in secrecy without the rest of his Invader team knowing, and that leads to some other things, and it kind of just goes from there. It's kind of like a shrouded mystery, like I said, that's focused on his past doings. But yeah, if you're a fan of Namor, if you're a fan of these characters, or like World War II type stories, then definitely check out The Invaders Volume 1. I'll definitely be picking up the second volume. It is an ongoing story that this first arc doesn't get resolved in this paperback, which collects the first 6 issues, but it was an enjoyable read. So yeah, definitely check that one out. And last but not least, we got Bad Gateway. This is by artist-writer Simon Hanselman, who I guess is Australian. I just found out that recently. I thought he was maybe like Swedish or Dutch or something like that, but I was way off. He was born in Australia, and that's his nationality according to his Wikipedia. Anyways, Oh, yeah, it says is a Tasmanian-born cartoonist. Yeah, so he's mostly known for the Meg and Mog comics that he's been putting out through Fantagraphics over the last, like, I mean, that's got to be like several years now. It's been quite at least as long as I've known it. And his first book that came out from Fantagraphics that got a lot of attention, that collected some of the Meg and Mog comics that I guess he mostly put out online and in different publications prior to being collected, was called Mega Hex. So if you're looking to see where this all started off, that is the first collected edition version through Fantagraphics that you can pick up. And Meg and Mog are a cat and a witch, a female witch, who are basically stoners, and these are stories about them, just day to day throughout their dreary, drug-addled lives. I mean, that's essentially what it is. And you can pick up any of the volumes. There's 4 of them. This is the 4th one that has come out. And unlike the other 3 different hardcovers that have come out through Fantagraphics, this one is in a very nice, oversized format. The other ones are kind of smaller hardcovers. Definitely they pack more pages in those, but for whatever reason they chose to make this one in an oversized hardcover edition compared to the other ones. And in the artwork, he's got 2 or 3 double-page spread sequences when you open this book up, and it also ends that way as well. Of just ones of Meg, like, walking through the forest, and then, like, her and, like, Werewolf Jones and Mog, her cat, walking, to their home, and that they live at the bottom of a mountain, and them kind of relaxing and like next to a stream, like in the middle of the forest, just like these nice luscious like landscape background things where they're kind of just doing mundane things like chilling and smoking or walking around. But like it really was a nice standout feature of opening up this hardcover. So it's just a beautiful looking collection. And the sheets, like the actual pages to the book, are all like black. So like on the if you flip the book over on its side, like instead of just seeing white pages, they're all got a black trim to them. So yeah, it really stands out. It's definitely one of the nicer packages and books that Fantagraphics has put out that I've seen in a while, and definitely the nicest book in the series. So yeah. This is essentially, there was a character in the first 3 volumes that they lived with and treated like shit. Like, he was like a childhood friend of theirs, but they just treated this guy like a piece of shit. Like, the things they did to this guy were just like any normal human being would have walked away from these guys that were basically taking advantage of his kindness a long time ago. But they lived with this guy, their roommate named Owl, who is an owl. And like I said, they just treated this guy like garbage. And at the end of the last set of stories in the 3rd volume, I think it's Meg and Mog in Amsterdam is what the book's called, or Go to Amsterdam. He basically moved out. He's like, I've had enough. I'm done with you guys. Like, don't look me up. I'm out of here. And he left. And he basically, he pitched in for the rent at this place. He was essentially paying majority of the rent because these guys are just like these layabout stoner people that don't have jobs and don't have ambitions and basically just, sit around fucking just getting high all day. And then they also have this other friend that they grew up with called Werewolf Jones, who's like the biggest degenerate out of all of them. Like he's just this disgusting fucking human being who pretty much, I think he ended up ass raping the owl character in one of the older books somehow. I won't get into the whole story of how that happened, but I guess he like violated him and played it off as a joke in one of them. But like this guy's like, he's dipping in and out of like hard drugs, not just like smoking weed and drinking like most of the Meg and Mog stuff. So that guy's fucked. Like he's like, smoking crack and doing all kinds of fucked up shit. And so basically, he ends up moving out, and in this volume, this is essentially them trying to get their lives together, and not only that, it kind of delves into Meg's past about how she kind of got there in the first place. Like, it gets so bad at one point of this book where there's a pretty interesting scene where she actually has to sell off her possessions. Like, she ends up having to sell off these skates that her mother had bought her back in the day, and she kind of went without, drugs or something at the time to fund, to pay for these things for her. And she was at such a low point in her life, she got like $20 for these things, and they basically just used it to get high one evening until they came across money the week after through maybe like a welfare check or something like that. And in doing so, like, she all these things from her past came up, and us as readers were able to view some memories of her when she did get these, and she's finally coming to the self-realization, and you're actually seeing some growth in these characters that these books had lacked at times. And it was just a lot of the times you're just seeing kind of funny, fucked up antics from these people, but every now and then you get these moments, and especially in these last 2 volumes, I think, where you are seeing some growth to these characters and realizing, like, maybe some of the wrong turns that they had taken in their lives. So in this one, you also find out, that Mog the cat that she lives with, like, their relationship's been kind of rocky the last 2 volumes because Meg's in love with somebody else, and she's kind of just going along with this relationship just because she's been with Mog for a long time, and it seems like it's something out of, like, conveniency, in that sense that they live together and they get high together, and they just kind of go day to day like that, right? And meanwhile, it seems like she's longing for somebody else. So yeah, you get into all those topics in this, as well as you get some crazy fucked up antics, drug-addled adventures that they kind of, drug-fueled adventures that they kind of get into as well along the way, which you normally get in all the volumes. But yeah, like I said, Owl, who is in the first 3 books, does not make appearance in this book, and it's mostly just focused on them, especially Meg. And them come to the terms that they gotta get jobs, they gotta make money, they need to survive. They're living in this place together, and none of them are contributing at this point. And now that Owl has left them, they're pretty much fucked. So yeah, I would definitely suggest you can read any of the volumes, to be fair. Like, there is a through line of story, especially in the last 2 volumes, kind of like as things are kind of amping up now. But you don't really need to, I wouldn't suggest you need to seek out any volume in particular to start out with. If you kind of want to see what these comics are like, you can probably pick up any of them and get a sense of it, or at least from what I've told you, if this interests you enough to check it out. But yeah, it's a really different series. It's kind of grim at times. It's definitely something different than anything else I read. And it's sad at times, in the sense where, like, you may know people like this in your lives that maybe didn't amount to nothing and basically are just getting by, like the people in this book on welfare checks and from fucking bumming and, depending on others and doing this kind of stuff. And, you may even know people that were affected by drugs in your lives, and maybe this type of stuff isn't things you would enjoy reading. And while I don't really think that they're poking fun at these type of things in this book, although they do find funny moments with these characters and things to, make you laugh, I just think it's just a harsh look at the reality that sometimes this is for some people. Like, these are there are people like this, and just like a harsh look at that kind of situational type stuff with these characters. So yeah, definitely check it out. His art is, I would say, simple, yet really well done. Again, I think, like, he's using some, like, non-traditional kind of things to draw the characters. Like, again, a lot of this looks like it's like, I don't know, it's just like a lot of the coloring is muted. He does the writing and all of the art in this book, so this is his creation. If you're not familiar with his art, definitely just Google it, take a look at the art style. It's very good cartooning, though. It works. Is able to convey all the funniness, the funny moments really well as the great expressional humor as well on these characters and storytelling. But yeah, I am a big fan of these series. Like I said, this isn't like most things I read, and it's a little different than most things I read, but it's found a place in my library. And every time a book comes out, I read it like right away because I don't really follow the stuff that he puts out online at all. So whenever these collections come out, collecting all of his short stories, I really end up enjoying them quite a bit. All right. Well, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed my reviews for today, and definitely check out our other podcasts on the Late Night Chat Network. We also got the weekly Wine Comic Time that I do with my girlfriend Christine, where we talk about single issue, new release comics. And we got the Late Night Chat show on the Late Night Chat Network that I do with it's Late Night Chat with JT and Niko. So definitely check that out as well, and we'll see you guys next time.